Awesome, amazing guys. Welcome back to Meet the HR with me, Sylvia Wanja. Remember, we're talking to an author, Terry, about her very, very nice book known as Victus and her journey as an author. So let's get back to the conversation. So, Terry, they say that there's a quote I had with, I think, a colleague or somewhere around the street that said, for an author, in order for you to confirm you're an author, you have to do more than one book. Do you think that is true? Or someone can write one book and be satisfied with it and they can still retain their status as an author?
Thank you for that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think after graduating university and entering the workspace, I've had other jobs. So it has informed me what work means. I think I can say being an author, for anyone who wants to be an author, I'm 29 years old. So I thank God with the gift of life and according to God's will, as He satisfies me with life, let's say I live to 65, I encourage all of you who wants to be an author to see authorship as a career like any other. You can work in it till you retire. So that's why I mentioned, for me, living till I'm 65, I plan to write for my whole working years, because normal jobs, people work till retirement, then you retire, and I think it shouldn't be any different for someone who wants to be an author. But with that, it requires you to be very serious, to think how many books do you want to write, maybe one a year, one in 3 years. And as you mentioned, to be an author, it requires you to write more than one book. I think for you to master the craft and to work well in your working years, it does require more than one book. Yes.
So people, if you want to be an author, you should strive to at least write more than one book.
Yes, you should aim. It depends on how you want to journey in your journey, but if you want it to be your career, you can work in it your whole working years till you're 65. So you can plan to write one book a year. That's my goal. Or you can plan one book in 3 years. But also with your finances, you can check with your finances if it works for you to be an author full time, because you have to balance with publishing and the finances as you go along.
And do you think it's important for someone to figure out a niche when it comes to writing, or as a writer or as an author, can you just write any genre, or do you need to narrow down to a specific thing?
Authorship is very craft heavy. You really truly have to be good in your craft. As I mentioned before, you're putting together a book. You have to know what is a book, how does a book flow, beginning, middle, end. You know, like musicians, they put together music. So you have to be good at your craft. That's what I can say. Yes.
You have to be very good and figure out what your niche is. If it's fictional writing, if it's whatever it is that you...
Yes, and in that, if it's fiction... You're good at fiction, you're good at non-fiction. And if you want to be good at different types of books, you have to invest in developing that skill to master that craft. Yes.
So don't just sit still. A lot of research, a lot of hard work. You need to have the input so that you can get results as a writer.
Yes.
Okay, and in your own words, what makes a good author?
That's a good question. I love John Grisham. I've come to love John Grisham in my late 20s. I read his book, The Chamber. What I love about him is longevity. And as I communicated, I really believe authorship can be a career where you work in it your whole working years to 65 and you retire, and you retire well. With him, I see that. So I think tenacity makes a good author, whereby you're someone who is focused year by year. As I said, one book a year or in 3 years, but don't let it be more than 5 years. So what makes a good author, I can say longevity. I see that with John Grisham. I don't know if you know John Grisham, but you can Google him. He's written over 20 books.
Wow.
Paulo Coelho is another author who is one of my favorites. With him, what makes a good author? Wisdom. And you can gain wisdom by reading. You can gain wisdom by talking to people. You can gain wisdom by being curious and taking on that journey that you want to gain in wisdom. Because with books, if you think about it, you know, from our experiences as humans, books are found in libraries, and many libraries are found in schools. So as an author, you can see yourself as a teacher as well. There's a big part of writing that is really teaching. With your clients, you have to think, why are you writing? They're telling a story, but what's the impact of a story? So wisdom is important in that journey of communicating to your clients, and as an author, being able to say what's the impact you're making, and teaching and leaving a legacy with your teaching is one of those things which I think makes a good author.
Amazing. And in your own opinion, do you believe it's important for an author to have a mentor for them to be good at what they do?
With that question, if you want to be an author, invest in reading. And at the bookstore, you can find mentors. When you pick a book, you can see the authors as mentors. But as I said, writing is very craft heavy. So you definitely need a mentor. Maybe you choose one who you can have coffee dates with at different times. But if you're not able to spot a mentor who you can meet and have coffee dates with and talk to, the bookstore is a great resource where you're able to identify different mentors, and the bookstore and different libraries are really great resources. There's so many people who have written great books that can teach you how to be an author.
And in order for you to get started on working on a book, what are the things that you need to put into consideration before you get started with the actual writing, the planning that comes beforehand? What do you need to put into consideration?
I think before you think about writing a book, for me, I had a lot of inspiration. I don't know how much I thought, okay, I want to write a book. So you may be on different paths. You may decide you want to write a book, or it's out of passion and it's a journey of love where you're like, wow, I wrote a book. So I think things can go different ways. But before you want to write a book, if you are in school, you may be thinking about which discipline you want to go into in terms of jobs. So you have to make that decision. I want to be a writer. And that decision is a very strong decision, because later on it impacts who you are in the world. So I think it can go different ways. Yes.
Okay. And you've talked about taking being an author as a career. And do you believe it's sustainable enough? Can I rely on writing to cover my bills, to feed me, to clothe me? Do you feel as if that's a sustainable career path?
Thank you for that question. I think for many of us, you've had people writing, and they're self-publishing. There's different avenues, and you wondered, can it be a career, or it's just something, a side hustle? As I said, in my late 20s, I was able to meet the author John Grisham, not in person, but as I said, from the bookstore, which I think it's a great experience for anyone. You know, you can have that experience with an author. As you read the book, you meet him you meet their wisdom. So he's been able to have writing as his career. He wanted to be a lawyer, which with my story, it really touched me. I also wanted to be a lawyer. And he decided to write. And as I said, he's written more than 20 books. What it entails is you have to be very disciplined. Just as people go to work. You talked about writer's block, and there are many people maybe you write today, you don't write in 3 weeks, then you write
again.
You have to wake up and you put in 8 hours a day. If you're tired, there's that situation, but your discipline is important with it, just as a normal job. But you can be an author. There are many successful authors who they've sold their books globally. For me, my book was able to be at Nuria Books, and we were able, with the first publishing of the book, we printed 300 copies, and so far we've sold almost all of them.
Wow.
So you can imagine if you're selling it at 1,000 bob, and if you do one a year, you're able to have a steady income.
But again, it requires discipline for you to follow through, like, so that you can avoid things like writer's block, and you can remain consistent in whatever it is that you're doing. Wow, amazing, amazing, guys. I hope you're following through with this conversation. Now, with the introduction of social media, there are various sites where most others can write online as compared to doing a physical book. So compared with like another doing a physical book and just depending on these online platforms to write stories, where do you feel that an author is most appreciated?
As I said, I'm 29. So on my journey, I'm discovering the literature industry, bookstores, libraries. But libraries are great places where authors are appreciated. My first book is at Kenya National Library. We were able to take 2 copies.
Wow.
So libraries, as I said, with books, if you think about them, they reside in libraries, and a lot of libraries are in schools. Schools are also great places where you can be very appreciated. As an author, you can aim to, as I said, writing. There's a big part of being a teacher in writing, and depending on what you decide to focus on, you can decide to write for children. You can decide to write for adults. But when you note your clients, they'll appreciate you depending on how you carry yourself.
And how can an author ensure that whatever work they have worked on is not copyrighted or stolen or replicated somewhere else? What are the measures that an author should take before publishing a book?
Yes, there's the Kenya Copyright Board. So I was able to have my book copyrighted as well. And when you identify a good publisher, they're able to walk you through those steps of noting that security behind your work.
So you need to have a team to work with, from the editor to the publisher, so that you can be able to be conversant with the environment of authors.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. Unfortunately, guys, we're out of time and we're about to call it a wrap right here at Meet the HR. But before we do that, let's get to hear what advice Terry will give others out there, the ones who are upcoming, the ones who have an idea and want to put it into writing. What word of advice would you give them using this camera right here?
Thank you for that question. The advice I would give authors out there is stay disciplined. The craft is amazing. It's beautiful. For me, I used to be in the worship team at our church, and I fell in love with God's word in music, but also when I read my Bible, and that inspired me as an author as well. Now it's interacting with word in different way. Now I'm writing, so I can say, have a love for your craft, and have discipline, and have tenacity.
Amazing, amazing, guys. There you have it. And apart from being an author, what else do you do?
Yes, I'm an artist as well.
Amazing.
I paint. So I do that, and as I said, I'm a sustainable development specialist. So I've been able to work in that capacity as well.
Amazing, amazing, guys. That is it right here at Meet the HR. I hope you have learned something. I hope you have picked something important. If you want to be an author, or if you feel like you have an idea you want to put into writing, you now have an idea of what it takes to go down that road, okay? And remember, here at Meet the HR, as we always say, there is no luck in career, but it's an opportunity meets preparation. With preparation comes a lot of research, a lot of work. You need to put in the work so that you can become the person you want to become. And I will see you in the job market after preparing yourself for it. So my name is Sylvia Wanja. See you guys next week, same place, same time, with another interesting career to delve deep into. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.